I asked God, I'm gay. Will you still love me? What happened next? The near-death experience of Kerry. I was dying in a hallway. My throat had swollen shut. I couldn't breathe. As I took my last breath, my eyes closed in death, and they opened in the most beautiful, radiant, white, limitless light I've ever seen. I wasn't human anymore. I was a light body, and I was being pulled up through this light at incredible speed, like riding a cosmic elevator. That's when my grandparents appeared, luminous beings of light, apologizing to me telepathically for everything I suffered as a gay child in the Bible Belt. But I had somewhere else to go. I pointed toward the brightest light above us, and then I saw God. I was staring directly at an almighty, genderless God, and every gay slur, every violent act, every moment of terror from my childhood ran through my mind like a movie. I grew up Southern Baptist. I was taught I was an abomination destined for the lake of fire. In 2009, I was beaten nearly to death on Sunset Boulevard in a hate crime for being gay. Now, I was standing before God. Was this the moment I'd be cast into hell? With absolute humility, I uttered 7 words. I'm gay. Will you still love me? What happened next changed everything. My name is Kerry, and this is my near-death experience. The allergic reaction. Let me back up to how I got there. I was walking my dog when I started sneezing. At first, I thought it was normal, but the sneezing was relentless. I felt the need to get back inside immediately. By the time I got to my apartment on the 5th floor, I was still sneezing and starting to itch. My wife was home, and I told her I felt weird. My tongue was swelling, my eyes were red and starting to swell too. My palms were itching, as well as my neck and back. She knew I was having an allergic reaction and went to get Benadryl at the grocery store across the street. Shortly after she left, I started gasping for air, sweating profusely. I texted her that I needed an ambulance. There happened to be an ambulance out in front of our apartment building. She pleaded with them to let a crew member come help me. They said they couldn't split up because they were there on another call, but they called for another ambulance. My wife texted me to come to parking level 2 to meet her and the paramedics that were on the way. I read the text as my airways swelled shut, and I could no longer breathe. First death. I toppled over from the chair I was sitting on, and I experienced my first of 4 deaths that were to follow that night. I went into darkness. Nothing was there, no sound, no light. I wasn't in this place long because my dog started barking at a high pitch. He knew I was in distress. The frequency pierced my consciousness, and I came to. I still couldn't breathe, but I knew I had some place to go. I staggered to the front door to make my way to the elevator. I didn't remember to pick up my phone. The elevator was 50 to 60 feet away. I made it 5 steps outside of my door and was gasping for air. I remember thinking to myself, this is how I'm going to go out? Really? I fell to the floor in the hallway after not being able to breathe, and what happened next was life-changing. Entering the light. As I took my last breath, my eyes closed in death, and they opened in a beautiful, radiant, white, limitless light. It was crystal clear. My physical form was no longer a human form. I was a light body. I could tell because I could see my reflection. It was like I was looking in a mirror. I found myself pulled up through the light at an accelerated rate of speed. It was like I was being sucked through the air by a powerful yet gentle and loving force, like I was riding a cosmic elevator. I wasn't afraid, though. All I could feel was love that was so powerful that I knew I was going home. Meeting my grandparents. While continuing at this accelerated speed, I was stopped by my grandparents who came out of the void. They were luminous light bodies that I could recognize by their energy. I could feel them. They were apologetic and wanted to let me know that they were sorry. Through telepathy, they said that now that they are on the other side, they understand that by being gay, I had to live in so much fear. I had to live in terrified silence during my childhood and didn't come out until I was 31. Being gay meant I lived in fear in my own home because my mom would have beat me or kicked me out of the house. Being gay had a particular stigma associated with it because it meant that my sin was unique. I was taught that I was an abomination destined to the lake of fire. I grew up as a Southern Baptist in the Bible Belt. In 2009, I had been targeted in a hate crime because I was gay, attacked and left for dead on the street. I understood what my grandparents were telling me. It made me feel good to hear this apology. They said it wasn't my time and that I needed to go back. They radiated love through their energy. I accepted their apology. I said, I love you too, but I have somewhere else to go, as I pointed toward the light. I affectionately shooed them away. They displayed a sense of humor, almost an arrogance as they honored my wish and moved back into the void, face to face with God. At that moment, I looked up and saw my destination. I was looking in awe at God. It was like everything was happening at once. As I was staring up at God in amazement, every gay slur or violent act ever impressed upon me ran through me with such a flow. Events in my life played back in my mind like a movie. I felt a deep heaviness as I stared directly at an almighty, genderless God. I was thinking, was this the lake of fire moment? Would I be cast into hell for being an abomination? With absolute humility, I uttered 7 words. I'm gay. Will you still love me? The cosmic hug. The brilliant, loving light formed into wings. At God's speed, he whisked me into his vast spiritual arms while huddling up the universe. I saw planets, stars, galaxies, clusters, all being brought into a cosmic God hug. On a human, the place where I was taken would be the heart. As God brought me in for a cosmic hug, he said, "You are my child. I love you. I love you. I love you. Go tell him." He said it with a southern accent. He patted me on the back like a coach, encouraging his player to get back in the game. At that moment, my grandparents ran into the light, and I was dropped back into my body. This explained their sense of humor and slight arrogance. They knew what was going to happen. Back in the body, being dropped back into my body wasn't pleasant. I felt my body bounce, and I still couldn't breathe. My blood pressure had plummeted. I was so free on the other side, and now I was so restricted. I gained enough momentum to make it 25 more steps, and I went down again. The rescue. My wife had been timing me and became concerned that I had not made it down to the parking level 2 floor. She took the stairs and came to the 5th floor. She was running straight down our hallway and looked left at the hallway that led to the elevator. She saw me on the floor, unresponsive. She took control of the situation and carried my dead, limp body the remaining 25 feet to the elevator. My wife is 5'2" and I am 5'10". During this time, I was in total darkness. No God, no grandparents, no light, just darkness. My wife was saying things to me to get me to hold on. There was despair in her voice as she situated us in the elevator. Out of nowhere, I spontaneously awoke in her arms and told her that I loved her and that I was going home. I fell back on her with my dead, limp body as she was hitting the parking level 2 button on the elevator. She missed the button and the elevator went up. 2 men got on the elevator and my wife begged for help. One of the men happened to be an Army medic. She explained that I had gone into anaphylactic shock and the paramedics were meeting us on parking level 2. The Army medic. The Army medic laid me on the elevator floor and took control. I have no recollection of the elevator ride until I heard the medic say my name in a loud voice. He said, "Kerry, I heard you played basketball. Kerry, I heard you played basketball." He placed emphasis on my name, on the word basketball. He had apparently met my wife a few weeks prior to this night, and she told him that I was a gifted athlete. I remember waking up to the most beautiful smile from a distance. He was trained to know what to do. If he would have been in my face, I don't think I would have come back. It would have been frightening. Next, all of these paramedics rushed into the elevator and pulled me out. They were unaware of all that I had been through in the last 25 minutes. I was awake and breathing, but my body felt paralyzed. I just felt like a set of eyes in a body that was so heavy and dense. The paramedics started talking to me and asked me if I could get up on my own. I looked at them like they were crazy. I was still talking telepathically. I said through telepathy, "No, I can't get up on my own. You know where I've been, and you know how heavy and restricted these bodies are. I can't move." They didn't hear me, and I couldn't speak. They looked at me like I was being difficult and was going to make them pick me up off the floor. After several minutes of me trying to get my bearings of where I was and what had happened, they managed to get me up to the stretcher. I was taken to the emergency room, treated for anaphylactic shock, and released the next morning. The medical mystery. Before this night, I had never had an allergic reaction to anything. I hadn't done anything different this night than other nights. I hadn't eaten anything that was strange or different. I walked my dog on the same route as every other day. Over the next 20 days, I went into anaphylactic shock 6 more times. I had to use an EpiPen to save my life. I took 6 more rides in the ambulance to the emergency room. My body was drenched in epinephrine. My head and my heart felt like they were going to explode. I was being tested at University Medical for an answer to why I had gone into anaphylactic shock 7 times in 21 days. Nothing was testing positive for an allergic reaction. To this day, they have no idea what caused the anaphylactic shock. It hasn't happened again over the last 3 years. The heart condition. After the near-death experience, I started losing consciousness at random times, and luckily, these episodes happened when I was at my home. One night, I got up off the couch to go to another room and felt like I was walking in quicksand. I dropped to the floor, fell into the closet door, and sliced my head open. I quickly regained consciousness as if nothing happened. I was being treated for syncope, but they didn't know what was causing it. This went on for a year and a half before my doctor decided to put a monitor on my heart. I wore this monitor for 2 weeks straight, and it recorded my heart rhythm. The test results came back showing that my heart had been stopping for 9 seconds at a time. Consequently, I needed a pacemaker immediately. In January of 2017, I had a pacemaker implanted. The cause for my heart stopping is unknown. I haven't experienced any other medical condition since this date, the hate crime. Prior to the anaphylactic shock, I was recovering from injuries from a hate crime that took place in 2009. I was attacked and brutally assaulted on Sunset Boulevard. The perpetrator left me for dead on the sidewalk and was never caught. I had an out-of-body experience this night, but didn't cross over. I saw my bloody body on the sidewalk. I recognized the body, but was impartial to it. I heard a voice say, "Call 911," and someone responded, "Does she have insurance?" Several people were gathered around me. People thought I had been stabbed because there was a pool of blood on my stomach. I was above my body and could see that blood was pouring from my face and the blood was streaming down my arm. My arm was crossed over my stomach where I was laying in a fetal position. I was out of my body for 15 to 20 minutes. I remember being back in my body when the paramedics were putting me into the ambulance. I looked over to the side and they were spraying my blood off of the pavement with a high-powered hose. My face was shattered. My teeth were knocked out. It took 5 months for the swelling to go down just so they could perform surgery. I had 2 facial reconstructive surgeries over the next 7 months. I developed frozen shoulder sustained from the fall in the assault. It took 7 years to recover. I developed PTSD, and it wreaked havoc on my mind and body. Thankfully, I have fully recovered from this medical nightmare. Closing reflection. Kerry's question to God is the question millions of LGBTQ people have asked in their hearts. Will you still love me? Growing up in a religious environment that taught him he was an abomination. Surviving a brutal hate crime that left him for dead. Living in fear his entire childhood. When Kerry finally stood before God and asked that vulnerable question, he didn't receive judgment. He didn't receive condemnation. He didn't get the lake of fire he was taught to expect. He received a cosmic hug. God whisked him into vast spiritual arms and brought the entire universe into an embrace. Planets, stars, galaxies, all pulled into divine love. And God said, with a southern accent no less, "You are my child. I love you. I love you. I love you. Go tell them." Think about that message, not "you're forgiven despite being gay," not "I love you, but you need to change," just pure, unconditional, infinite love. You are my child. God sent Kerry back with a mission to tell people what he experienced. To share that divine love has no conditions, no exceptions, no fine print. Kerry died 4 times that night, went into anaphylactic shock 7 times in 21 days. His heart stopped for 9 seconds at a time, requiring a pacemaker Doctors have no medical explanation for any of it, but Kerry knows why it happened. He was given a message that the world desperately needs to hear. If you've ever felt rejected by religion, if you've ever been told you're an abomination, if you've ever wondered if God could love the real you, Kerry's experience is your answer. The God of the universe doesn't just tolerate you. He pulls you into a cosmic hug and says, "You are my child. I love you. I love you. I love you." No exceptions, no conditions, just love. Thank you for listening to Kerry's near-death experience. If this message touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because somewhere out there, someone is asking the same question Kerry asked, and they need to know what God said back.